They don't make 'em like me no more.
Wouldn't it be nice if you had the power to make commands with a wave of your hand? Welcome to the touchless future. Discover the LG G8 ThinQ with revolutionary touchless controls that open up a whole new way to interact with your phone. Make commands with the wave of your hand using air motion. Perform a host of common tasks, waking the device, answering or rejecting a more. Plus, you can use your palm to unlock your phone for unmatched convenience. Now you can unlock your phone in 3 ways.
What if you had the power to control things without touching them? What if you could use your mind for anything from bending spoons to lifting cars, even stopping bullets right in front of you? What would be the limit to what your brain could do? This is What If, and here's what would happen if telekinesis was real.
Then we get to some of the G8's new features that take advantage of the Z camera system tucked into the notch. Hand ID uses the G8's infrared light to see your veins in your palm for what LG says is a more secure authentication method that's extremely hard to forge. It works in daylight or in a pitch dark room, but it's finicky and slow, and you have to be at the exact right angle and distance from the sensor for it to work. And honestly, I would much rather just use the G8's excellent 3D face unlock or fingerprint sensor to get into the phone instead. The same goes for air motion, which lets you jump into preset app shortcuts or control settings like music playback by hovering your hand about 4 inches away from the Z camera and pinching your hand into a sort of claw shape. If that sounds a bit ridiculous, well, that's because it kind of is. Again, while the tech is cool, and I especially like how accurate this finger tracking visual is, air motion is extremely finicky to activate, and the whole system just feels clunky and unnecessary. The idea of adjusting your music's volume by turning an invisible dial really falls apart when it works so unreliably.
But, for some reason, the feature you never knew you didn't want, you can also use your hand to unlock it.
You can now unlock your phone with Hand ID.
In theory. You did it. You did it.
Yeah!
Do it again.
Okay.
I've never got 2 in a row. Nice.
Yeah! Okay,
So-
it's not fast though. Yeah, an under-screen fingerprint sensor is clearly a better solution. With that said, the OnePlus 6T is fast, but the ultrasonic sensor, wrong phone, not impressive to me so far. Check this out. It might as well be an iPhone 6.
It might as well be a hand unlock.
It's our new punchline, isn't it? Poor LG. Hand gate. Everything's gate with this thing. Vibrating screen gate.
Okay, so lucky you, it unlocks for you, that's great. Now, that actually has other features that you can do with your hand other than unlocking it. They're called air motion gesture.
Sounds terrible.
Air motion. Try holding your hand 6 to 10 centimeters away.
6 to 10. Sure, let me get that dialed right in for you, okay?
Don't pretend like you aren't intimately familiar with that length.
Okay.
See that green bar that came up?
Yeah.
Okay, now move your hand 20 centimeters away. Okay, now you're supposed to be able to like swipe to start an app or pinch for a screenshot, like a duck. Yeah. But it's supposed to be giving you a preview where it kind of images your hand and you can see what your hand's doing, but it's not even giving me the preview anymore. Wait, why isn't the preview coming up if the bar is coming up? Okay, I can't take this anymore.
It was like a psychic
Really, this is where things start to get weird and we start shifting into the things that I don't like about this phone. The Z camera enables air gestures, and yes, they are far more accurate than what we had with the Galaxy S4 many years ago. The problem is when the phone requires me to make this crazy amount of steps just to get it to work, and when I have to shape my hand as if I were controlling a puppet for the sensor to understand that I'm giving it a command. It even requires a specific distance, and there's just so much work that it just makes this whole experience really cumbersome. This is no easier or better than just touching the screen and getting things done, and fine, you can give me the argument that that's fine whenever the phone is on a table and you can't touch it, but sadly, even that experience is not ideal.
There is one more camera we need to talk about though. It's called the Z camera, and it powers the features LG really hoped would set the G8 apart from the pack. It's technically what's called a time-of-flight sensor, and if you're not familiar, it emits and captures infrared light to figure out its distance from a subject and to generate depth information. So, what did LG decide to do with all of that depth data? Obviously, it cooked up some gesture controls, so you can use the G8 without actually having to touch it. These air motion gestures can help you launch certain apps, play and pause songs, take screenshots, and even control the phone's volume. Fair enough, but to do any of those things, you first have to hold your hand between 5 and 8 inches away from the camera, then hope the phone notices. Then you curl your fingers into a sort of claw, hope the phone notices that, and then flick your wrist or close your hand to accomplish whatever small task it is you wanted to complete in the first place. After you get these gestures down, air motion is actually kind of cool, but it's not practical at all. Do you know what can handle just about all of those tasks in less time and with much less hassle? Google Assistant. Voice commands work so much more reliably than air motion here that it's laughable. I have to wonder why LG even bothered with this. LG's Hand ID feature also uses the Z camera to look at the veins in your hand to unlock your phone, which sounds kind of amazing. But just like air motion, it's neat in theory, but a total pain to actually use. Over the past week, I have registered and re-registered my hand several times in hopes of finally getting the feature to work correctly. And on literally my 10th attempt, I finally got it working. That should have been it, right? No, of course not. The real problem is that getting your hand where it needs to be on the first or second or sometimes even third try is nearly impossible. The G8 does give you some on-screen directions, but even those don't help most of the time. More often than not, it took several tries to actually unlock the phone with the palm of my hand. And since Hand ID only works when the screen is on, chances are you're going to have to touch this phone to wake it up anyway. Like air motion, Hand ID feels like something LG cooked up just to prove that it could, with very little concern for practicality or ease of use. What a waste. At its core, when you strip away some of these really finicky, uneven extras, the G8 is a solid device.